Alcoholism or alcohol use disorder is the most misunderstood and enraptured with the most ignorance by society of any mental or physical disease, period. Okay? We take a child, we take children from birth, and we pound it into them drink, 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 drink through advertisement, through family culture, through peer pressure, through trauma and stress and things that they feel from their parents or from the people who bring them up in the world. And then we find it strange when they have their own series of stress and anxiety and depression. And we find it strange that somehow they're attracted to alcohol when it's been pushed on to them since the day they were born, practically. And then we have to blame somebody. We have to blame the alcoholic. We have to blame the people that are in their life. We have to blame their spouse, their family, their friends. Why are they this way? Why did they go down this road? What could have possibly have happened? It was their choice that they did this. It was their choice. Nobody chose for them. And this is the most ignorant of all statements in the world. So let's break this down and continue a little further. So let's break this down. Why is there so much shame and guilt and resentment and anger and animosity towards someone who has an alcohol issue? Why is there? As opposed to, say, somebody who has cancer or heart disease. Now, somebody, say a woman gets breast cancer, and we're not going to sit there and blame, well, her spouse must have caused the breast cancer, or her family or her upbringing must have caused the breast cancer, when there is a degree of culpability. Maybe they should have got tested earlier, maybe they shouldn't have 2 packs of cigarettes a day, and maybe, just a thought, maybe they were also drinking. Drinking actually causes 200 different types of cancer. Maybe it was their lifestyle. Maybe it was a hereditary issue. Maybe her mother had it, so there's a high probability that she would have breast cancer too, but there's no shame attached to that. Or somebody has heart disease. Maybe there's heart disease in the family. Maybe they're morbidly obese or have a weight problem, or they eat too many hamburgers and french fries. I don't know. Okay, or they don't exercise enough. Why don't we hold those people culpable in the same way that we hold someone who is suffering from alcohol use disorder? Why is that? Because in truth, alcoholism also has a hereditary element in about 50% of the cases. ADH1B and ALDH2 on a chromosomal level will actually give someone a predisposition to becoming an alcoholic. Now, you mix that in with family culture where it's normalized to drink when you're growing up. I mean, you have a toxic, beginning, which is not a choice, no one's choice, any more than someone who has heart disease or breast cancer or any kind of cancer. And yet society will go, oh, well, they have a bad character, their family's bad, their decision making is bad, and it was their choice. And yet they've been pounded to drink in their ecosystem that they grew up in their whole life. But, it was their choice. Why is it the only disease where there has to be a scapegoat? Well, it's the alcoholic's fault. It's their fault that they have this problem. Maybe they had trauma in life. Maybe they had PTSD because they were in the army. Maybe they have ADHD. They have, maybe they're just an introvert, their personality, or they have borderline personality, or they have some other mental illness that's connected to it, or physical problem, and that's a stress in your life. Whenever you're singled out in any way to be a little bit different than the rest of the population, that's a cause for stress and anxiety, which in turn can cause somebody to have, a disorder towards substances like alcohol or drugs. It can be a disorder or a unnatural amount of consumption. It causes that. When you have a yin like anxiety and stress and these types of emotions, well, that has to be cloaked. It has to be covered with a band-aid called alcoholism. It's not a choice. It's a reaction to something that a person already has. Some of it's innate in them, and a lot of it is pushed on by society. To say that it's just someone woke up one day and say, hey, let's start drinking. Wow. And in that same vein, why does alcoholism destroy more families and individuals than all the other drugs combined, times 10? And the reason is accessibility. I mean, you can't walk down the street. You can't walk past a convenience store. You can't walk past a grocery store. alcohol is everywhere. The accessibility is just out of control. You can't go on an airplane, a bus, or a train without going through a station, and alcohol is accessible in a bar or just in a restaurant. It's everywhere. And as a result, because of the accessibility, it's become a huge problem. If you look in the Middle East where they don't have alcohol, alcoholism rates are zero, pretty close to zero in comparison. Accessibility, availability, and the way that it is culturally pushed on us is a huge part of the problem. So what's the solution? Well, we tried prohibition. That's not really going to work. I mean, we did that 100 years ago, and all it did was create a criminal element on the likes we've never seen before. That's what Al Capone is about. So what we really need to do is we need to isolate the people who we can identify that have a problem and get them the help that they need. Alcohol is so accessible. Why is not the care that they need as accessible? Why is a rehabilitation facility $30,000, $40,000, $50,000? This is the help these people need. We need to have better services for people who suffer from this malady. That's a big part of it. If we're going to push alcohol on the population, we better have some checks and balances on the other end to make sure these people are cared for mentally and physically. And that's a big part of it. And I think that needs to be looked at. The ignorance, well, that's going to have to come with time. That comes with education, and I hope my videos have helped some people realize that it's an education level. It's been classified as an alcohol disorder since 1956 by the American Medical Association, by the NIAA, which is the National Institute of Alcoholics and Alcoholism and Alcoholics, since 1970, and they're the group that actually studies this, and they dedicate their lives to this disease. And again, thanks so much for listening. And real quick, the memoir of my wife was Amanda, A Cautionary Tale of Alcoholism. It was the story of her 25 year decline with alcoholism, and she passed away almost 5 years ago this month. And again, you can find it on Amazon. You can find it in my link tree. You can go right to my website and purchase it. The ebook is on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and the Apple website. Again, thanks so much.